to Cinema Wellman. I'm your host, David, and if you've been following along and listening to the podcast or watching on the YouTube channel or reading the blog, you know that we've introduced a few segments that are going to be ongoing segments. Already done a top 10, bottom 5 for a couple of months. We did an and introducing, and the first one was Tilly Losh, and there are more to come with that. We just did Around the World with Cinema Wellman that took a look at some foreign films that have been screened. Which Was Worse is on the blog, and it is the very next episode of the podcast and the YouTube channel. And today is part 1 of yet another series. And what I tried to do is put together a list of what I hope are interesting movie experiences and things that I've done. And I've always tried to watch my films in an unconventional way. For a few years, I watched my films by theme. Every month had a theme, and say January was trains. Everything I researched, I looked up, I found all the train movies and watched all the train movies. And I did, with the help of friends, come up with lists for colors. We did everything. I watched movies from every state one month. So I've always tried to mix things up. And today, what we're going to look at is the first of 10 that I put together, movie moments and memories, I call it. And they are not ranked because not even I could do that. No way. So the first one we're going to look at today, it became known as 24 Hours of Wellman. And the idea was to stay up for 24 hours straight and watch movies nonstop. I don't know if you've ever stayed up 24 hours consecutively. I know that I did it in college a couple times on purpose, a couple times accidentally. But it's not, we're not made to do that. We're not built that way. We need to have that 8, hopefully 10 hours of sleep in that 24-hour cycle. So I knew this was going to be a challenge, and I had to find the right films, and I had to figure out the right time to do it, because it's not every day that you can say, I'm going to set aside 24 straight hours that I'm not going to do anything except this. And in my case, it was watching movies. The first challenge was to construct the lineup. I wanted to make sure that I mixed up the genres. I didn't want to have too many of the same thing. And I didn't want to do anything that I would consider, I call it heavy lifting. Think about heavy dramas, deeply thought-provoking, things like that. This was going to be, we got to keep it going for 24 hours straight. Let's keep things going, and hopefully not too much of a tax on the brain. So speaking of taxing on the brain, I tend to be a little OCD, and I became a little obsessed with the time adding up to exactly 24 hours. And I did come up with a lineup of 12 films that added up to 1,440 minutes, which is 24 hours exactly. I had a list of films that I wanted to see. I always have that list around. And I picked 9 or 10 of those, added up the time, and then I picked and chose the last couple to fit into the slot. So essentially it's 24 hours, it's 12 films, so even I can do that math. I'm averaging a 2-hour movie every 2 hours for an entire day. I needed some help trying to figure out, now that I had the films, and I enlisted the help of my friend Larry. And Larry and I got together, and we talked about, we strategized how we want things to fall. Hey, you don't want to watch this at night. This is the, whatever. This is going to be good for this time of day, and things like that. Larry also helped me construct a menu, and we discussed alcohol intake, because there was definitely going to be cocktailing going on. And if you're going to do this for a 24-hour cycle, you're not going to start that kind of behavior too early in the day, or else you're never going to make it. So after about a week or two of planning, I had everything all set. I had a film schedule, I had a menu, I had a fully stocked bar, All I needed was the weekend. I had to pick the right weekend. Again, it's hard to carve out. I'm going to do absolutely nothing, and I'm not going to speak to anybody. I'm not going to interact with anybody, and I need full 24 hours to do that. So what I did was, I was teaching at the time, so I chose a 3-day weekend that we had, and we had Friday off. It was Easter weekend of 2018, and so we had Friday off. I had to work on Thursday, so the strategy that I came up with was to come home on Thursday and pretty much go straight to bed, wake up at midnight, and then do the 24 hours. So I had it kind of planned out in my mind, got home, took a hot shower, put myself to sleep, and it's kind of hard. I love sleeping, and I can pretty much sleep anywhere, but it's hard to shut off the day that early and get into the sleep mode. So I did just that, and I made sure that I think I was asleep by 4:30. I snuck out early, and I got home, and again, I mentioned I took a shower and just tried to go to sleep and did that. So here we go. If you go on the blog, cinemawellman.blogspot.com, you can look at the lineup. I won't have the times here for you. I'll mention them, but I will show you what I watched. So here we go. This is what happened after the alarm went off. Blade Runner 2049 was number one. And I led off with this thinking that, the Blade Runner movies they're visually dark. So I figured, I'll wake up. You're kind of getting out of that sleep mode, and it's kind of, the trippy, futuristic, bleak future of the Blade Runner films. And so I figured I might as well watch this at midnight. Loved the original, big fan of the original, and this was fun. I was excited to see it, so even though it was dark, it kept me awake. So that was good. That went from 12 midnight to 2:44 a.m. All right. Now, next is a movie that I was so excited to see. You ever see a trailer and you're just, I can't wait to see this. This is so great. I'm going to go to the theater to see this. This is fantastic. It has so-and-so that I like, this director, whatever. And then you see it and it's just terrible. And that's this experience. Downsizing. And I saw the trailer again. It looked great. It looked like a great premise. There is overpopulation in the world. And one of the suggestions is to, I shrink you down, I crush your head, is to shrink people, and then they're this big, and you can have, civilizations, and they only take up a little space and all that stuff. Now, I looked at the trailer and said, this is kind of fun. This is, this is light, and it's going to be comedic, and then they went a different direction with it, and I was just like, this is actually ultra depressing. And it was terrible, and it made me kind of overthink the entire idea. It was a bummer. It was a bummer, and this is a bummer that lasted from 2:44 to 4:59 a.m. So it was a sad time in Wellman. So this is a thumbs down, but 2 down, 10 to go. The next film, sunrise, was going to happen during this film, and sunrise that day was at 6:32. I was anticipating the end of the most difficult part of the day. I figured once the sun came up, I would be in a normal frame of mind. And I also came up with an idea to watch the films in different parts of my house. So I had screens set up in 3 different places, and I got up, you sit in different chairs. And I also, walking around every once in a while during the credits. I did sneak out and walked around the neighborhood during the credits of a couple of movies, especially the comic book movie later, that the credits sometimes are like 10, 15 minutes. So the third film, after the disappointment of downsizing, I decided that sunrise was going to happen while I watched an Agatha Christie film, or a film based on Agatha Christie's writing. I love Agatha Christie, wonderful writer. Her films her novels made into many, many good films. Look up 10 Little Indians, read it, watch it, if you like good mysteries. very pumped up for this. Really good cast. Kenneth Branagh did a good job, I thought, and great story. And the fun was starting. Fun movie. Sun's coming up. Things are looking good. 3 down, 9 to go. It's 6:53 in the morning. And at 6:53 in the morning, I made myself an English muffin with cheese, and I did have a mimosa as a reward for making it through the first 3 films. Time for, I put in 2 animated movies, and the first one happens right now, and it's Ferdinand. Ferdinand was perfectly placed in the lineup right after the mystery. It's daytime. It's a fun story. It's an uplifting story. And it is next. So that was perfect placement. Ferdinand was really good. 4 down, 8 to go. Next, as I said, It. And I am a huge Stephen King fan. I can say the same thing that I said about Agatha Christie. Great writer. Their works made into many really good films. With Stephen King, not so many. Well, there's over 50. I know that I've seen 23 of them, maybe more. So if Stephen King writes something, I'll watch the movie pretty much. I like to read his stories, and I love to see how other people visualize his words, as I know I do in my head while I'm reading it. So I was psyched to watch It, and I was so glad that I didn't watch this in the morning or at night. I'm glad that, morning where it was dark, or at night when it was dark. I'm glad that this happened during the day. This was a good one. And again, watching it during the day, I didn't have to visualize Pennywise in my corner, in my back, behind my back. Here comes Pennywise. All right. Anyway, 5 down, 7 to go. Next up, I, Tonya. And I, Tonya, about Tonya Harding and her involvement in the Nancy Kerrigan thing. I remember this story very well because at the time I was living in Stoneham, Massachusetts, where Nancy Kerrigan was from, and that whole thing happened, and she was Gilhooly'd the club. That was a crazy story. If you're not old enough to remember that was a weird kind of thing. And in the world of figure skating, you can Google it, read up on it on your own. I'm going to tell you about the movie. Margot Robbie did a really good job playing Tonya Harding, but the person that stole the whole show to me was Allison Janney. Absolutely amazing as Tonya's mother. This was an excellent midday movie. Well done all around. This was good. This had me going. So here we go. 6 down, 6 to go. And that brings us to like almost 1 o'clock. 12:56 in the afternoon. So I was feeling good, not tired. Again, walking around the house, kind of keeping the blood flowing and things like this. All systems go. And then not only did I watch the worst film of the day, by far, I watched the worst film of that month and probably the worst film that I watched in all of 2018. And that was The Disaster Artist. And disaster is the perfect word to be in that title. It was horrendous. It had me questioning the project. I wanted to shut it down. I was so angry at this film. It was that bad. It had me questioning being a movie fan. Anyway, next, Little Odick saved the day. If you're a regular reader of the blog, or you listen to the podcast, or watch the YouTube episode about Around the World with Cinema Wellman, you heard all about Little Odick. Little Odick is about an anthropomorphous piece of wood that is raised as a child by a childless couple, and the log grows up and it eats people. So that's all good. 2 branches up, way up for Little Odick. If you want to know more about Little Odick, go back to that blog or listen to that podcast or watch that YouTube episode. I talked all about Little Odick for a while. All right, so here we go. 8 down, 4 to go. Now, Little Odick was important as well because it made it to the point in the day where for the first time, I knew I had it made. And this is at around 3:15, 3:30 in the afternoon. because that's the time when I usually would get home from school. And many times after working a day, I'd come home and I'd stay up till midnight. So that's all I had to do at this point was make it until midnight and do while doing something that I love doing anyway. So this was really good. It was Little Odick was an important part of the day. Now, I should have known better than to put a comic book movie in here because they're really not my cup of tea. But I do watch them, but they kind of tend to all seem like they're the same to me. I watched Justice League, and it was the regular Justice League, not the, I don't know, I think they recut one and it was 16 hours long or whatever. Anyway, this went from 446 to 646. So what made Justice League even better was pizza and a salad from my favorite pizza shop here where I live, and that's Zesties. And Zesties does a good job. Zesties should be a sponsor. So Zesties helped, and the food was good, and here we go. And I really only have 3 more movies to watch. And what I did was, here comes the second animated film of the day, and it was Coco. Delightful. And again, perfectly placed. I think Larry and I did an amazing job ordering these films in a correct lineup that they kind of supported one another, or here, you need a break from that, and we're going to give you this. Coco was great, fun, uplifting, good movie, nice message. The Day of the Dead, really great, and a perfect lead-in. And with Coco, 10 down, 2 to go, perfect lead-in. Day of the Dead, Juan of the Dead. So, like Little Odick, Juan of the Dead was just mentioned and highlighted in the segment that I just told you about with Little Odick. So more about that, you can go to that. And anyway, this was perfect. It was a Cuban zombie movie, and following Coco, it was really an interesting doubleheader in the small sense there. It's funny, it's bloody funny, and 11 down, 1 to go. Almost did it, almost made it. Cruising here, and I must admit that I got cocky. And it could have cost me, but it didn't. I only had 1 film to go. And so at 10:05, and only Atomic Blonde to go with Charlize Theron. And that would take me to midnight exactly. And my cockiness was that I got into bed and watched that last one. After staying up for 22 hours, knowing that if I fell asleep and missed the end or the middle or all of Atomic Blonde, this would not count. It's like saying you're going to eat 9 bratwursts in a 9-inning game and you only eat 8 3/4 bratwursts. It doesn't count. So I was hoping that I was going to stay awake, but I wasn't hoping. I was confident. I was cocky. Took a snack to bed and watched Atomic Blonde. And I made it. I made it through. And it was, again, great placement because it was last. And that movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's noisy. It is noisy as anything. So at least I knew it was going to keep me awake. And that's it. I did it. 12 up, 12 down, all set. The 24 Hours of Wellman was complete. The entire lineup with the titles, with the times, with the time of day, that's all on the blog post. All of those films were from 2017, with the exception of Little Odick, which was from 2000, and Juan of the Dead, which was made in 2011. This is one of my top 10 movie moments and memories. I recently thought about doing it again, but it was kind of like I already checked that box, so I can go on to other boxes. If you heard this or watched this and you're like, I would do that, I'd like to do that, I will help you. If you want any help, I can help you schedule it. I can help you come up with the right lineup and give you some strategies and things like that. Shoot me an email, cinemawellman@gmail.com. That's about it for today. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. It's @cinemawellman. Listen on Spotify, watch on YouTube. All you need to do is search for Cinema Wellman. And that's it for today. Talk soon. Take care.